This excerpt from the public television program, The Piano Guy, is brought to you by NAMM, the International Music Products Association. Now this tune is called So Far Away. It was made famous by Carole King. She had a huge hit on the tune. And what we want to work through today is a really basic version to get underhand so that you'll then have what you need to start adding some authentic things to make it really sound like probably more what it sounded like on the recording. So what I want to do is dig through this in its most basic pared down form, which is just to think about the melody and the chord changes. And that, by definition, is what a lead sheet will tell you. So let's dig right in. Now the melody on this tune is a fantastic example of how not to read something. And what I mean by that is, a lot of these tunes, these pop tunes that were sung, it's really impossible to notate accurately what the singer was doing. And it really doesn't do it justice. And a good example, if I tried to play this melody exactly as it's notated, it would be how corny and stilted is that? It's nothing you really want to play. So instead, you want to use these notes as a guide, but be thinking while you're reading the notes, or maybe just using them as a guide to kind of gauge where you should move. What you really want to be thinking of is, wow, what did this sound like when Carole King was hearing it? So obviously, it's important that you've heard the tune before you try to get a tune learned, but and I don't know if I'm going to play it. It needs to flow a little more. Just, play something like you would whistle or sing it or hum it or the way you've heard it played. That really, although I say that a lot, I think I can't emphasize it enough to understand that really the human part of what we're doing here is not reading black dots on white paper. It's recreating things we know inside. It's recreating things our ears have already heard. So don't fight yourself in that. Let your ears help you do that. And I think you'll find that you end up learning and memorizing melody lines a lot faster than maybe you had in the past if you were always trying to memorize something that was notated. So let me just move on through. You're so far away. Now, this has kind of a little 2 or 3 measure thing, and then it goes into what's sort of a bridge section, but not really a pure bridge. But you can ignore my left hand here, just give us a sense of where we are. Back to the top. So that's it. This tune is not a really difficult tune, and it's not really long either. So you should be able to get those things underhand pretty quickly. And again, remembering not to work on exact memorization of all the black dots on white paper, because it's going to sound kind of hokey and corny no matter how you do it. You really want to just try to be able to imitate how it is you would sing the song. Now let's jump to the other side of the coin, which is the chords or the harmony of this song. And we're going to start right in just reading the chord changes that are up above the melody notes in a lead sheet. Now for those of you that may have never done this before, you need to understand that there's just a kind of a preliminary thing you need to go through, which is just memorizing some of these chords. Don't panic. It's not particularly difficult. You just need to buckle down, spend 20 minutes, a half an hour, and learn these 4 or 5 chords that are in this tune. If you've never done it before, my strong suggestion is to try to find a book that has chord diagrams in it, that actually have little pictures of a keyboard with dots on it. Because you don't get the notation in a lead sheet, I don't necessarily think it's important to learn what a chord looks like notated in music notation. Instead, I really want you to get the real pragmatic version, which is what does the darn thing look like underhand. So get yourself a chord book or a chord finder or something that'll show you those chords. Those of you that do this will already have some of these underhand, but there might be a few sneaky ones. Let me look through and see if there's anything that might give you trouble. There's a D major 7. This tune goes back and forth between a D major 7 and a D major 6 many times. So here's the major 7th, and then you go down just to the 6th. And it does that a couple times. And then goes to a G major 7 to a G major 6, same kind of movement. All right, we have an E minor 7. A sus. If you haven't had that one before, here's an A sus. Here's an A major chord, A, C sharp, E. To make it suspended, you take the middle note and you go up a half step. Okay? And then moving on to D major 7 and G, on and on. There's one, now this is probably from a chord standpoint the most difficult part of the tune that goes, it goes, and it's only because there's 4 chords in that one measure. They come down the pike kind of quickly, but here they are. It's a G major 7 to an F minor 7 to an E minor 7 to that A sus, or up here, wherever you decide to do it. All right, working my way through, there's nothing sneaky in the bridge. F minor, we've done that, we've done that. Yeah, that's really it. That's about all the chords. So let me talk about putting them together real briefly. Now to start, I think it's a healthy thing for those of you that may be really struggling getting all the notes under your hand to do what's called just playing the root of the chord instead of all the notes in the chord. And all you need to do is look at the first letter of every chord symbol. Whatever that letter, that note name is, if you will, that's the single note you should play. So a D major 7, you should just play a D note. If you have an F sharp minor 7, you should just play an F sharp, for example. So playing that way, let me just show you how to do this. And you usually want to play it down an octave so it kind of sounds more like a bass player, which is in fact what you're imitating. So let's try that. So we go. See, there's that G, just went up to the G. Sorry. So that's just playing with roots. Now once you're comfortable doing that, and those of you that don't need to do that, you can go ahead and skip forward to what I'm going to do now. At that point, you probably want to start trying to get all the notes in the chord underhand. But don't be worried about heavy rhythmic things. Just try to play a single chord every time a chord symbol comes down the pike. Try to play it root position, because again, our goal now is not to play the smoothest, most polished version of the tune. It's to really just learn the skeleton of the song, if you will. So here we go. I'm going to move the melody line up an octave and play just a few measures for you. Now I'm playing all the notes in the chord. It's a pretty song, isn't it? And on and on. So you can take it from there. That really is a way that I suggest learning new tunes. This one in particular, but in general, anytime you want to work through a new tune, take a few steps backward, really try to get that chord change, in your head and get the melody line learned the way you hear it on the recording, and I think you'll really set yourself up for having a fantastic foundation to move forward and then really start working on some polishing things. So have fun playing So Far Away by Carole King. This excerpt from the public television program, The Piano Guy, has been brought to you by NAMM, who reminds you that playing a musical instrument is a fun, interactive hobby that benefits your mind, body, and spirit. It's never too early or too late to start. Want to play?